Well, hello, Algebra 2 students. I have propped up behind me our triangle again. Please remember the only word I can highlight and leave up there is hypotenuse, the hypotenuse. If we go right here, our hypotenuse has to be across from the right angle. It doesn't necessarily have to be A, but it has to be across from that right angle. Other words I will not put on this board because, again, if I were to put my finger on B, this short leg is right next to B, and the long leg up top is opposite. But if I were to put my finger on C, opposite, adjacent. So just remember those words are always flipping around, opposite and adjacent. It really depends on what angle you happen to be looking at. But I'm going to leave that up in the background. Hopefully I'm not going to sit too far in front of it. And when I put papers up, it should move back away so that you can see it. But the first thing I would like to ask you guys about is I don't always get to ask about prayer requests, but I'm like, hey, I really should start all of these in prayer. Because I don't know, maybe you're watching this first and you need to start your day in prayer. So today I'm going to have you start a Google Doc. Instead of emailing me on March 18th, you're going to go to the March 18th classroom page to this actual post where it says March 18th, and you're going to open up a Google Doc and name the Google Doc as your name and date, just so that as I'm going through and recording things, it comes up as yours, which it tells me anyway, but still. And number one, you are going to type any prayer request that you have. And number two, you are going to tell me like what you've noticed so far that you either like about this digital school. It does not have to be about my class. It does not have to be about my class at all. Like maybe there's a teacher who is knocking it out of the park and you're like, I am very, very impressed by that teacher and what they've been doing to do digital school. Maybe it's that you get to watch a video and rewatch it, and it really helps to hear the teacher say, oh, this is step number 1, this is step number 2. So I've already given you 2 things that need to show up on your Google Doc to give you points. 1 is prayer request, and 2 is anything that you enjoy so far that you're finding that you already enjoy about digital school. All right, so there's going to be other things that you do. Please eventually hit submit when the video is over. If anything else, all the way at the end of this video, you can maybe hit submit. Also, as I was going through yesterday, a couple people, when they were emailing me, were saying things like, Miss Jabs, thanks for telling us about the calculator and showing it to us, but it was really like it was hard to see and the glare was there. A couple people accidentally, when they were using a calculator, and I know you can't necessarily see it the greatest, maybe from back here it will work better. I can't see anything at all. So when you use it, when you're using the calculator like this, you have to type in sine first and then the angle. If you're using your iPhone, you type in the number and then hit like sine or cosine or tangent, whatever function you're using. But if you're using, a lot of times if you're using calculators like this, you type in the function first and then the angle. If you have a calculator that is one of these, like this TI-30, that is one that you have to enter it in a different order. So please make sure you're asking me about the calculator you are using. Once again, if you had closed down all your computer stuff yesterday and it's brand new today and you're going to open up Desmos to work on Desmos, please make sure to click on that little wrench up over here in this corner and change it from radian to degree mode. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of confirm and make sure that last night looked okay. So I'm going to do a lot of this one with you. This is somebody who emailed me back and gave me their initials. Maybe you can figure it out. It's not a big deal if you do or not, but hopefully you pause the video and we're able to get the information down that's here. So I always like to physically write on my triangles, especially if I have a paper, and it looks like angle F is the angle that's important this time, so I'm going to put a box around that and a star right there. Not trying to be mean to A, but A is not important and T is not important. So F is the only angle we're looking at, and we're looking for what we have according to angle F. I saw when some of you are working, you're putting all sorts of words on both sides, because we always do. It might be easier for you if you only put the reference word according to F. So if we were going to look at F, boom, 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 let's go across. Across means opposite. And remember, this is always the hypotenuse. It's the most important word. So go ahead and write hypotenuse. And I'm even going to put a box around both of those, and that 50.6. And then the other word left would be adjacent. That means next to, but go right next to F, and that's what's right there. And so these are the words we have. So if I turn around and look at the board, I'm trying to figure out, do I want to use so, ca, or toa? Do I want to use sine, cosine, or tangent? But I got to tell you something. This guy right here is not important. He does not have a variable with him. He does not have a number with him. So I'm going to cross out adjacent, which means if I look behind me on the board, I could use my hand, maybe, oops, not quite lined up right, to cover up tangent. I could use my hand to cover up cosine, because both of those have the word adjacent in them, and therefore we are going to be using sine. So looking at this, we're going to write sine, and I'm going to write it this way again at first, just so we know what we're working with and how we're dealing with that. I'm going to write sine of F equals opposite over hypotenuse. Sometimes I like to do that the first time I'm doing it every day, just so I remember what I'm supposed to be doing and I don't have to worry about the numbers yet. And again, that matches up with this right here. Remember, theta represents our angle, and if we know our angle measure, we do, it is 34. So we're going to write sine of 34 degrees equals x divided by 50.6. And please remember, I gave you that hint yesterday. If your unknown is in the numerator, you multiply to solve. So we're going to multiply both sides by 50.6. So we would get 50.6 sine of 34 degrees. And again, please make sure the only thing that goes with the sine is that 34 degrees. That 50.6 should not be with it. So since it wasn't really working for showing on the screen, I'm just going to type in my calculator right here, 50.6 sine of 34. And if I read it from back here, trust me, this is what it says. Hopefully yours is saying the same thing. 28.295169092. I'm not, like, if you want to know all those every time, but please round to the tens place. The tens place is the 2, but next to the 2 comes a 9, and that 9 would mean we would have to round our value up. So we're going to get 28.3. 28.3. And so that would be our answer, and that's how you should have done most of your homework from last night. If you did not complete that yet, please do remember that is due at 11:59 tonight, but your participation point for this is also due at 11:59. One of the things you could tell me as your participation point, do you like having the homework due at like midnight the following night? Or would it make it a lot easier for you if all of my homework was just due today? I'm not necessarily going to change it one way or the other. I kind of have to maybe wait and see. But I just don't know what people would like more. Would you like all of the stuff that, like for example, March 17th, yesterday, Tuesday? Would you like to watch the video on Tuesday and have the homework due Tuesday? Or would you like to watch the video on Tuesday and have the homework due Wednesday, due today? But that means you watch today's video and have something else due tomorrow. So kind of figure that out, because usually I have it due at the beginning of class and you have to hand it in before we kind of learn the next lesson. Now, the difference between 7.1, which was last night's homework, or I'm saying last night's, you know what I mean, and 7.2, which we're learning today, is every single triangle that we saw last night had an angle in it. Like an angle was given. We knew the value of an angle. When we have our triangles today, the angles are not going to be given. We are going to have to find the angles. So go ahead and copy this down as example number 1. Actually, that one we did just a second ago was a review, but this is example number 1. So go ahead and pause it if you need a little bit longer. But if you notice on that, the question mark is inside the triangle. The question mark is on the angle. That means when once we decide which one we want to do, if we want to use sine of theta, we don't know what theta is. So I am going to try to use the calculator to show you guys a little bit here about the way you use your calculator. And then You might see me kind of looking behind you because I'm going to be using Desmos behind you, so I for sure say the right way to do it. But on pretty much every single calculator, and every calculator is arranged a little bit of a different way. There are all these buttons on here that mean like and do certain things. And if you look, the way my calculator is, and some of you have like a red calculator like this or a pink calculator like this, you will notice that like all of these buttons are a certain color, but then above them is another font, right? And this font is in yellow. And if you notice right here, there's a yellow button. So in order to get the yellow words, I have to type the yellow button first. And so right here is my sine button. Right here is cosine, right here is tangent. If you look above those buttons on my calculator, and I'll point out different calculators, it actually says sine, and then it looks like it's to the power of the negative first. Hopefully you remember from last year, that's called sine inverse. So we would have sine inverse, cosine inverse, and tangent inverse. When we are solving for the angle, you will automatically use that inverse button. So on my calculator, I'm gonna have to remember to hit that second button first before I hit anything else in. So I have to type in sine inverse, cosine inverse, tangent inverse, whichever one needs to be used. And that is what pretty much, I shouldn't even say pretty much, your homework tonight, if you are not using that inverse button, you are going to be wrong. Now, if I pull up Desmos and I will use the keyboard like most of you do, I believe. So when you click on there, and if you have the pop-up keyboard on Desmos, there is this gray button that says functions. It's towards the right side of your screen. It's above the blue enter and the forwards and back arrows. It says functions. And if you click on that, I am pretty sure the first thing that pops up, it's already highlighted, is trig. And it is already going to be the first column. You see sine, cosine, and tangent. And just a real quick hint, you also see 3 other trig functions. They are called, let me see what order they go in on Desmos here. Usually it goes, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Those are their names. That is not important for you this year. If you go on to pre-calculus, that will be important for you, but we'll get back at that when we are in pre-calculus. But if you notice that middle column, you see sine and then the little exponent of -1. If you are using Desmos, that is what you will have to use. So either that button or the cosine button or the tangent button right below that. But other than that, tonight's homework is a lot like last night's homework, figuring out what legs we have according to the angle, even though we don't know the angle. So if I look at this, what angle does it look like is the important angle? I agree. It looks like angle S is the important angle because that's what we're trying to figure out. So I'm going to put a box around S, maybe put a star next to S, and we now have to figure out what side is the hypotenuse. Thank you. That 56.5 is my hypotenuse. That 56.5 is my hypotenuse. What side would be the adjacent side? Hey, look at that. Miss Jabs asked us what side was the adjacent side. That is the side that has the other number. So it's not actually even important to know that the opposite side is over here because that side has no information and therefore it is not important at all. So right now I know I need to use a trig function that has adjacent and hypotenuse in it. And that's why I propped up the board so it's a little bit easier for you to like look behind me and be like, oh, I know it's cosine. So we're supposed to be using cosine for this. So once again, I am going to write down what I write down every time. This time it looks kind of weird because you write cosine and then you write a capital S. So it kind of looks weird that those are right next to each other. But if you're working through with me, I think you'll be okay and you'll make sense of it. But I want to make sure that you get this entered in right and everything like that. Now, to get rid of cosine, we have to use that cosine inverse. So I'm going to write that here in front. And guys, it's kind of like when we did square root and squared. Cancel each other out, get crossed out. All we're going to be left with is S. So I'm going to draw that on this paper. Those two cross each other out. All we're left with is S. And so since all we're left with is S, that means we're going to get our answer. But that means I need to know what to do over here. Now, this is a math class. If I did something on this side of the equation, I have to do the same thing on the other side of the equation. And order-wise, please, the cosine inverse, the sine inverse, the tangent inverse has to come first. So we are going to write an answer of cosine inverse cosine inverse, and then an open parentheses with the 36.5 divided by 56.5. And so if I type that on this calculator, once again, you will want to make sure it is for sure in degree mode. Hit that second function thing on your calculator first. So you should see, and I really hope it kind of does show up. It's kind of sideways. It is got quite a glare. But what if I turn it that way? Nope, not helping at all. Sorry, guys. You see cosine with the little -1 on it. It automatically gives you an open parentheses. So now go ahead and type 36.5 divided by 56.5, hit enter, and my calculator is telling me 49.757978. Looks like it might be sort of a 7 pattern, but please round your degrees to whole numbers. So 49.7 would round all the way up to 50 degrees because I want a whole degree. I don't want decimals for degrees. So angle S, oops, I should have used the approximately. I kind of forgot that, and I used just a straight equal sign. But angle S equals about 50 degrees. So again, I hope you realize that this is very similar to last night, just using that inverse button instead. If you happen to be using Desmos and you type something in, and your answer says, give me just 1 second as I'm typing it in behind you here, 56.5. If you get an answer right now that says 0.86844, or if that's any calculator that's telling you that, don't think you did something wrong. On Desmos, all you have to do is click that wrench and switch it to degree mode, and as soon as you do that, it will actually automatically give you the right answer of that 49.75 answer, which rounds up to 50. So again, just make sure your calculator is talking in the right language. We need it to be talking in degrees. So that was example 1. Let's look at this example, please. And this question mark is by angle J. I will already do that. So that maybe as you're copying things down, you're already writing down the 2 important words. Sorry, guys. So as you were copying that down, I hope you realize the 2 important words were opposite and adjacent. I hope you realize the 2 important words were opposite and adjacent. And again, looking behind me, that means we're going to be using tangent. So we would write the tangent of J. By the way, these were somebody's initials as well. The tangent of J equals opposite, I have 62.1, over adjacent is 94.5. Oh yeah, since we are solving for the angle, you have to use that inverse button. And so we're going to do tangent inverse, which means tangent and tangent inverse are going to cancel each other out. And on the other side, I need to write tangent inverse first. Once again, if you try to type it the opposite way, it will not understand what you mean. And so hopefully that is what you were supposed to be doing. So please make sure you choose the correct trig function. When you use your calculator, you're using tangent, and actually you have to use tangent inverse. So tangent inverse of 62.1 divided by 94.5. My calculator back here is showing me 33.31063.082. Rounding to the whole degree, excuse me. It looks like angle J equals 33 degrees. All right, so hopefully because of what you did last night and figuring out sine, cosine, and tangent, hopefully tonight's homework is going to go pretty well. Please remember you should always use the inverse button when you are solving tonight. And I am about to sign off, but your answer number 3 is going to come. I'm going to hold up an example, stop the video, but your example number 3 that I hold up right here is going to be answer number 3 on your Google Doc that you've attached on Classroom. So please make sure you get all 3 of those answered and make sure to hit submit to earn your points. Thank you. Have a good day. I am missing you guys so much. So don't be afraid to talk to me.